I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain, just sing, just sing, just sing, 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 sing.
This is Heidi Moss Erickson, and welcome to Singing in the Brain, where today we're talking about the spaces in between. Part 2 is all about breath. For singers, breath is extremely important. We use our breath to sing. It's the activator for our sound, and we engage it before a song, while we're practicing skills, and in between phrases. And there are also different kinds of breaths we observe. We've observed shallow breaths, catch breaths, slow breaths, and deep breaths. Of course, breath is also a part of life. We breathe during meditation and yoga class, during exercise, and of course, while we sleep. Not all breaths are created equal. When we exercise, there's a much greater requirement than when we sleep. And we should know that phonation is an outlier in the whole breathing equation because we're coupling respiration to our motor task, and that is highly coordinated. But what all of these breaths share in common is the desire for homeostasis. And it's actually something that we share with other species and organisms. And it's the desire to maintain a stable, constant internal environment in relation to a dynamic and ever-changing external environment. So respiration is essential to maintaining our homeostasis. We are transporting oxygen from outside the environment into our cells, which is really the life-giving energy source. Now, since we're talking about homeostasis, oxygen levels in the blood are actually quite constant. When we're 95 to 100% saturation, that's normal, but below 95%, people will start to feel confused and out of breath, and below 90% is quite dangerous, as we all saw during COVID. So the main player in regulating this homeostasis is actually carbon dioxide. That's the alert molecule. And that's because carbon dioxide and water in your blood create an acid, and that decreases the blood pH. And this is what the brain prioritizes to balance the system. Breath also affects our heart rates. Every time we inhale, our heart rate increases, and every time we exhale, our heart rate decreases. It's called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and it's due to pressure differentials in the lungs as well as some other regulatory elements. Now, our brain takes all of this information from the multiple places, for example, the blood pH, to mechanical receptors in our lungs that test stretch, to even our voluntary signals in singing, as well as when we're anxious or in pain. And all of those signals feed into our respiratory center. However, it prioritizes homeostasis. So even in the face of any other signal, if there's a dysregulation in carbon dioxide, for example, the brain will prioritize that signal over any other, including singing. So if we think about homeostasis in relation to singing, if our respiration is influenced by carbon dioxide and coupled to our heart rate, how does that impact these spaces in between I was talking about when we sing? Since our body is our instrument, homeostasis then impacts every step of the way. A violin doesn't have a bad day or have sleep deprivation or a racing heart because it's nervous for an audition. Its homeostasis is constant. However, as singers, we really need to pay attention to our homeostasis to optimize ourselves as instruments. Of course, we can optimize ourselves throughout our day. We can eat right, like the doctor says, exercise, and of course, get enough rest and sleep. However, as singers, if we optimize our homeostasis in the places in between, we can also optimize our singing efficiency. So how do we do that? We can have a problem such as our heart's racing because we have an audition coming up, or we're nervous, or we drank too much coffee, or just ran to our lesson. So the solution then is to slow our heart rates down. And we can do that simply by increasing the ratio of our exhale to our inhale. If we inhale for 4 through the nose, hold for 7, and exhale through the mouth for 8, and then do that a couple times, we will completely reset our heart rate. Another problem that singers and teachers experience is what is sometimes called stacking of the breath. And all that really means is that the lungs haven't completely offloaded all of the carbon dioxide before a singer has to take another breath. And sometimes that happens because there's not enough space between phrases or a singer's rushing. But there's a solution of practicing offloading carbon dioxide prior to singing any phrase. And you can even take phrases apart to practice that process so the brain gets used to it. And so here's an example of a phrase where a breath is taken and then a short excerpt is sung, and then another breath has to be taken very quickly. In that short part, not enough carbon dioxide is offloaded. So you can take each phrase separately, audiate, completely exhale before that phrase, and then inhale slowly through the nose to sing. And if you repeat that process several times and then slowly take away the space like training wheels, then that breath will be taken with poise and ease, and the brain gets used to completely offloading the carbon dioxide. Now, we can't always know why we are feeling out of breath or without capacity, but there is one way to make sure that you're functioning optimally, and that is to do a physiological sigh. And this creates a larger surface area at the terminal alveoli, which are like little balloons. And if you inhale twice through the nose and exhale slowly all the air out, that can really help to create more surface area in your terminal alveoli for more gas exchange and better breath efficiency. So another problem singers face is the idea that we need more air than we think. And that could be a muscular effort or that feeling that we have to breathe, which could be related to something completely different. But a lot of people overbreathe. And in that case, we can actually practice by separating, audiating, play, and using gesture to convince the brain that less is more. We can audiate our phrase and breathe naturally to observe really how much breath we need, because when we audiate, our brain will recruit the muscles we need. We can do a forward bend as well to change the mechanics of the system, or trace our phrases with a circle, and use play like character and other intentions to not only give the voice a different interpretation, but it uses a distraction that can sometimes help over effort. So in conclusion, singing is a unique instrument because we have to optimize in the context of our brain-body environment continuum. And homeostasis is a part of that. So if you always come to your practice or singing with that in mind of being in an equilibrium and checking in with all these pieces, you'll sing more efficiently. And as always, remember to have fun.
Do 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 do.